Okay, welcome, Heather Jeffs. Heather has been a
Thank you.
small business owner, community leader, and member of the Cedar Park City Council, and she's been proud to call Cedar Park home for more than 20 years. So, Heather, thank you again for coming, and you have 5 minutes to speak, and then we'll Q&A you for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Mike, for inviting me and Indivisible for having me this evening. Yes, my name is Heather Jeffs. I'm running for Williamson County Judge. My family and I have lived in Texas since 2002 and in Cedar Park since 2005. We have raised our two sons through our public school system, graduated them from Vista Ridge High School, and they have mostly flown at this point. So really love living in this community. I spent many, many years with them volunteering in mostly the schools, room mom, PTAs, book fairs, things like that, all the way up to band boosters, swim boosters, and not a whole lot on the political side, though I am an avid and regular voter. Um, I would, you know, help out with block walks or putting up signs or donations when a candidate, crossed my line of sight. But for the most part, I was busy raising my kids, and that continued until about November 2016, and that sort of took the wind out of me. That knocked me out there for a minute and realized that this is not the state that I want to be living in. This isn't the country. This isn't didn't feel like it was really us. And so thought about what I could do, and had a lot of information coming at me to show up to the Women's March in downtown with about 30,000 of our closest friends. And then I got invited to a candidate recruitment meeting, and I thought that was the most hilarious thing that I had ever heard. And sitting down with my husband over dinner and a beer, I started to explain it to him, thinking that we would have a great laugh and then move on. And he stopped me short and he said, "I think you'd be great." And that kind of changed the trajectory of our lives at that point, because I went to that candidate recruitment meeting, realized that I really could get plugged in, that there was infrastructure in place to help me out and how to run this campaign, and lots of volunteers that were chomping at the bit to push back against Trump 1.0. And so I pinky swore with another woman that we would put our names on the ballot, and we would jump together. And I learned as much as I possibly could about how to campaign and how to run an election, asked a ton of questions, probably way too many for the managers that were helping the county campaign. We amassed a small army of volunteers that just blanketed Cedar Park, and we won. We flipped both of those seats in 2017. And I really loved the community building part of it and went to every workshop and seminar and conference that I possibly could, and loved it so much that I even went back to school and got a degree in it in 2023. There was an election in there, one of my first reelection campaign, that I thought if we just talked about how everything was rosy and sunny, that it would be great. And I fell 2 votes short. And so if anybody ever says that your vote doesn't matter, elections can be won and lost by a single vote. So always make sure that you show up to vote. But I learned a lot from that loss, turned around and ran the next year and won with 60% of the vote. And kept moving along forward as much as we could possibly learn about building a community. And each step has brought me forward to the point where we are today, where I resigned from city council at the end of October and put my name on yet another ballot that was a whole lot bigger and a whole lot scarier at the time. But my path has been made very, very clear. There are so many people in our community that are ready for a change. We are ready to flip this county. And now, as we've seen what's coming out of Tarrant just yesterday and what came out of our primary, our county judges are critical to how our elections are won. And so if we want to make sure that we have the right to vote, voting booths that are accessible to us and push back on voter suppression and gerrymandering, we have to elect county judges that have our best interest at heart. I'm partnering with the county judges in Tarrant and Fort Bend County to bring this message all across Central Texas, from Dallas to Houston to San Antonio and Austin. And we're going to be continuing to talk about how important our county judge races are. So I really appreciate you again having me here tonight, and I'm really excited about winning this race and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Heather. Does anyone have a question? Here we go. Here's one from Rick Benavides. A lot of folks don't know what happens at the county level. What are the three most important things that county commissioners oversee and can steer? And among those things, what do you see needing immediate change when you're elected?
County judges have an awful lot of authority that we don't quite see. They are in charge of the entire county budget. That's everything from our jails to our animal shelters, our roads and our road projects, the court systems. All of that budget comes underneath the county judge and the commissioners. And there's a lot of other things that county judges can and probably should be doing. If we look at some of the things that are going on in Travis County, they're working on early childhood education, diversion plans, and mental health services, behavioral health services. These are all things that we can be working on. One of the biggest, though, is going to be water and roads and transit. I have the authority to create a transit authority for Williamson County, partnering with any counties that want to do an agreement with us. So between water and transit, I think we're going to have a lot of work in front of us. I'm really excited to be doing it. One of the other smaller issues that I think needs to happen on day one is the medical examiner's office. Right now, Williamson County is the largest county that doesn't have a medical examiner. That means we don't have anybody that is a medical professional to pronounce death and start investigating cause of death. And right now, we are sending our deceased loved ones to Fort Bend County for autopsy. That's 4 hours each way that a sheriff deputy has to transport the body. They have to sit in Fort Bend to oversee that autopsy so that any evidence collected is usable by our district attorneys. And that's significant amount of time. And usually the process takes about 4 to 5 months too. It also takes 25% of the time away from each of our justices of the peace. So their courts are getting significantly backlogged because of the amount of cases that we now have in the county. So that's going to have to be, day one. We have to hire a medical examiner.
Thank you. Richard, you have your hand raised. Could you ask your question, sir?
Yes. Hi, Heather. We met through Citizens Climate Lobby a few months ago. And so this question relates a little bit to what you just said, as well as Kiddick's question in chat. As a county judge, I think you have an environmental background. As a county judge, what sort of impact could you have on county environmental issues?
Well, one of the biggest things that we can do is work with all of our quarries and aggregate mining to significantly improve the air quality. We can also start working on water quality by creating a groundwater conservation district. That gives us the opportunity to regulate usage and make sure that we're ensuring fair access for humans, and making sure that water is as clean as we can possibly have it for our residents here, while ensuring our aquifers remain at sustainable levels. Also, with transit, that allows us to regulate, air quality in that respect, where we can reduce idling times for county vehicles, create laws for idling of trucks and heavy machinery all across the county. So I think there's quite a bit that we can do for environmental work. And yes, I do have an environmental background. I have environmental science background. I also served for 7 years on the Clean Air Coalition of the Capital Area Council of Governments. And so my first love and my first vocation were in science.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Heather. There's a question from Kitiki related. It's not so much water, it's more air, but what will you do if elected, when elected, to minimize air pollution from data center power plants, especially those authorized under TCEQ standard permits? And
Yeah,
could
unfortunately,
you could you explain what TCEQ is for all of us who are
sure.
less educated?
TCEQ is the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. It's Texas's version of the EPA. And Texas, well, each state has to answer to the EPA. And so TCEQ's regulations are supposed to be guided by what EPA's regulations are. Under the Obama administration, under the Biden administration, they were quite stringent, and a lot of companies would get in trouble for the amount of pollution that they were putting out. Unfortunately, the person that we have in the White House right now has systematically dismantled every professional at the EPA. And, Abbott has never been a friend of the climate here. So, our TCEQ, our Texas Commission, does the bare minimum, and really it's not as bad here in central Texas, but further to the east they are really bad about holding companies accountable. So we do have to work within the laws that TCEQ does, but assuming we can get a new administration, the EPA guidelines are a lot more strict than what are being enforced right now, which gives us a lever to pull on that.
Thank you very much, Heather Jefts. We appreciate it and very much wish you the best in your race. And I'm sure we'll be seeing
Okay.
more of you. So if everyone could give some joy to Heather Jefts before we let her go.